Thank you for joining us and welcome to our little talk today. And thank you to Kaiser Permanente for sponsoring our little talks. If this is your first time joining us, we do host these little talks every other month on what we hope are relevant topics with a panel of experts in the field and on that topic. On our in-between months of our little talks, we also host what we call virtual excursions, where we take you to different countries or states through food and drink. It's kind of a culinary experience. And we talk about the area that we're in. These happen during kind of the happy hour time. So hopefully maybe you're home and you can cook along with us. And we will travel next month on June 15th to Brazil. So we hope you will join us. And then we hope you will join us every month after that. So little talk, virtual excursion, little talk, virtual excursion. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I did read somewhere that good mental health is wealth. And a little help would like to help you grow your wealth. So let's kind of just go ahead and move on to our show. I will introduce our speakers in a minute. I did just want to take a few moments on just kind of some logistical and kind of run of show. We will have each panelist talk for about 15 to 20 minutes. During that time, you are more than welcome to use the little chat function, and I will try to keep an eye on that. And if I can, I will try to interject and ask your question while the speaker or right after the speaker is done. If it doesn't seem to work or not appropriate or we're running on time, I will make sure to go back to all of those questions at the end. At the end of all three of our speakers, we will have about 10 minutes where we're going to open it up for questions. And again, you can put them in the chat, or you can raise your little virtual hand and I will unmute you. I believe I should have those capabilities. So you can ask the question by voice. So let's go ahead and get it started. Our first speaker is Dr. Jonathan Lee, internal medicine with Highlands Ranch Primary Care. Second, we will have Sabra Chavez, and she is the Director of Integrated Therapy from Northern Colorado. And then last, we will have Mike Reichert, Director of Community Partnerships from Wild Bear Nature Center. Dr. Lee, are you ready to go ahead and share your presentation?
Sure. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very honored that I got asked to do this. I work with Kaiser Permanente. I'm an internal medicine doctor, which means I don't see kids. I see adults, and mostly I am most comfortable, or I treat mostly kind of the geriatric age. So 65 and up, I do treat all ages of adults, but mostly just geriatric age. And I've been with KP for a lot of years. And so very happy to be here, and just want to thank you all for being here. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay. Let me know if you can't see that. I think you guys can see that. So I want to talk a little bit, again, so I'm your primary care doctor. I'm the one you come see for your physicals. And also, if you have an issue that may need a specialist, you come and see me, and I examine you, and I do whatever I can to help you. And most things I can do. But when I need to refer you on to a specialist, that's what I would do. But most people think of me as just they come to me for every year to see their physical, and I get to talk with people, and I really love what I do. So I want to talk a little bit about anxiety, and just kind of wanted to reinforce what Tanya said. It's so important to manage our anxiety, and to kind of take just keep our mood and our reactions kind of in check. There's a lot of science behind it. I won't go into all the science behind it, but when you have anxiety, it makes everything kind of worse. So if you have asthma, it makes your breathing a little worse. It has to do with when you are in a stress state, it raises your cortisol levels, and whatever condition you might have, if you are anxious or stressed in a kind of a stress mode, it's going to make it worse. Diabetes is another one. Blood pressure is another one. Your blood sugar will go up, your blood pressure will go up. So it's really important to try to keep your anxiety in control. I am going to talk a little bit about what you can get from your physician at the end, but really there's a lot of ways that you can kind of manage this on your own. So let me. There we go. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about just anxiety first. You may hear me say anxiety and depression kind of interchangeably because they kind of are. So it's kind of how you react to stress. Some people get jittery and can't sleep, and then we say, well, that person has anxiety. Or some people tend to get really sort of withdrawn and kind of crawl into a hole. We say, well, that person's depressed. But the neurotransmitters in the brain are really kind of the same, and we treat them the same. So some of the medications, if any of you are on them or know of anyone, they may be the same, whether you suffer from depression or anxiety. I want to talk a little bit about just kind of acute versus kind of ongoing. And acute is more like, well, you had an immediate stressor, losing a job, going through a major life change. And sometimes we call those a grief reaction. And those we kind of expect that you may recover on your own and may not need intervention because you know that there's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel versus ongoing. And so ongoing is more kind of just a general feeling of unease, just never feeling well, never feeling right, and just having a lot of symptoms. A lot of symptoms can manifest just from anxiety itself. And I think no matter where you are in life or where you are in general, I think everyone is aware of kind of what with the COVID pandemic and what's happened in the last 2 years, and how that has really been a source of just great anxiety, just for a lot of people. It was hopefully once in a lifetime experience for many of us, and it brought out a lot of different kind of tensions and kind of emotions that a lot of us had never really expected to imagine. Um, so anxiety is also, it's not always bad. So a lot of it is, the way I say is it can actually motivate you. I had great anxiety when I had to prepare these slides. So it motivated me to make sure I did it and make sure it looked right and that I could kind of give this talk. So anxiety can be motivating. So if it is that way for you, then that's actually really a good thing. And I wouldn't recommend that you change that. I want to focus more about the anxiety that can kind of be bad. So when anxiety kind of makes you be withdrawn or kind of crawl into a hole, and it inhibits you from kind of functioning or really enjoying your life or your day-to-day activities. So what I say to my patients a lot is, when you're anxious, anxiety is okay if it kind of motivates you or makes you react in a positive way. But when you're anxious about being anxious, that can usually be bad. And that's kind of what I want to focus on here. So I'm going to talk about a lot of different things here. And again, kind of taking control of your own anxiety. So, and doing things to help your own mood, or what I say is kind of distracting you from your anxiety. There's a funny saying I heard from one of my coaches when I lead meetings. I'm the chief down at the Highlands Ranch Clinic, and they said, in the history of calming down, no one has ever calmed down after being told to calm down. And so you always see these, well, calm down, and no one's ever going to calm down. So it's really sort of, I kind of look at on us is to kind of, we have to kind of take control of our own calming down and our own reactions. And I'm going to give you, kind of go through a whole bunch of different ways or methods to try to distract yourself or dealing with your own anxiety, so it doesn't take away from the person you are, or it doesn't make your lives more difficult, or just makes your days bad. So I'm gonna go over a lot of topics. I'm gonna give the disclaimer now. I am not an expert in any or all of these, but I'm just gonna give you kind of a breadth of lots of different things that you can try. And maybe that you're already doing some of these things. So again, and there's a lot of overlap to these things. I'll talk quickly about each of these different categories. A lot of these things you may already be doing them, and you may not do them in the fact like, well, okay, I'm going to do yoga because I'm treating my anxiety. So you may not be doing that consciously, but hopefully after today, you'll learn about a lot of these things, how they are actually contributing to your own treatment of your own anxiety. And I think it's important to be mindful. So when we do things, not just doing it, but to realize how it's impacting you and how it's improving you and how you're really sort of helping yourself. I will talk a little bit about medications and professional help, but again, I don't want that to be the focus. I do want to talk a little bit about that because, oh shoot, what happened? Okay, because that's what I do. Um, Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about arts. And if so, I come from a very artistic family, both my kids and my wife, and I think that if they knew that I was talking to other people about art, they would laugh because I am the only non-artistic person in the family. Um, but I think it is an important outlet. It's something that a lot of you probably do or may have been interested in it. Oh, I missed a slide. I'm sorry. I want to talk about exercise first. Yes. I apologize for that. Okay, so I spend a lot of time talking about activity to my patients, and a lot of them come in for chronic pain and aches. And I try not to use the E word, exercise, because when I say exercise, I get a lot of rolling of the eyes and you know, he's going to make me exercise again. And a lot of people don't like that. So I really try to think of it as activity. So when I think of exercise, I think of that picture on the left. And so to me, that picture is really kind of intimidating. You see someone who looks like they're already in really good shape. They've got very fancy clothes on and they go to a fancy gym and they do all these fancy exercises. And if that's intimidating to you, you're not alone. And so if you like to do that, that's great. If you have access to a gym, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying that there's lots of different activities that you can do. Um, and I think of activity as doing something that's active, obviously getting out, and it is exercise, but do something that you can enjoy. The biggest one I tell all my patients is pick an activity that you can do forever. You know, it's not something I'm going to do this for 6 months and then I'm done. Then I'm done with the exercise thing, and that's not it at all. You want to do something that you can do safely for the rest of your life. Do it daily. It's more important that you do it regularly as opposed to intensity. It's better that you go for a 30-minute brisk walk every day as opposed to hitting the gym and pumping iron or doing really intense yoga for an hour a week. Try to find something you could do every day. I always like to get outside. I think it's fresh air, it's vitamin D. Do it safely, wear sunscreen, wear hats, make sure that you've got the appropriate shoes. And, you know, and I think we're lucky to live in a state where we can kind of do that in Colorado. So, but getting outside is good. And there's lots of data to show that if you suffer from chronic pain, chronic muscle stiffness and aches, and just fatigue, regular daily activity will help that. And a lot of my patients will say, well, I'm too tired to exercise. I can't exercise. So my response to that is, well, if you don't exercise and you're tired, when you start, you're going to feel really tired for probably the first week. But then the more you do it, it's going to actually energize you and motivate you. All right. Now on to art. So again, arts, a lot of people enjoy a lot of artistic things. And if you have one of those things, if you are into painting, you know, pottery and just arts and crafts, I would use that as a good sort of de-stressor or as a distraction. Um, there's, you know, I live down in Highlands Ranch in the south part of town. We have a lot of these businesses that are popping up. One of them is called Canvas and Cocktails. So my wife goes to them with her friends. It's like they'll get a group of 8 of her girlfriends from our church. They go together and they get a project. They get a certain sort of like something to paint, and it's an organized, it's instructor led, and they can choose wine or coffee if they want to choose that. But it's a great social event as well, and they really enjoy doing that. And you come home with a finished project. There's another business down here in Highlands Ranch called Board and Brush that they do. It's like woodworking, but you'll get like a sign, and you can make a sign for, and you can sand it down, you can paint it, you can texturize it, but you come home with a nice project. So art is, you know, if it's something that you do and you like to do on your own, great. But there are businesses that will cater to you if you don't have those means. The other thing is, what I like to say is if you don't want to do the art, you can go to a museum and look at other people who did art. And that's also very de-stressing, can give a lot of just kind of just inner peace, and people can really enjoy that. Music and dance is another one. You know, lots of classes around. I go to, again, I live in Highlands Ranch. I go to this great church who started this music and arts program, and they have a orchestra. And this orchestra, is all made up of just people in our congregation. And it's a lot of, when I first heard them, I thought, wow, these are like professional musicians, but they're not. They're people who played in their high school band and dusted off their flute and started playing again, and they are really enjoying that again. Dancing is another thing. I don't dance. My wife is a great dancer. I don't dance at all, but I think as one of my anniversary gifts to her, I may actually enroll in a dance class and surprise her. So picking up an old instrument that you play, or if you are retired and have some time, even learning how to play a new instrument can be a really kind of a gratifying a way to de-stress and kind of distract. And again, same thing with art. If you don't want to do music, you can go watch people do music, go to a show. Musicals, we have great facilities in Denver that have live shows. So something that you can do, and if you feel it's gonna helpful. All right, so hobbies. I want to talk a little bit about hobbies. Now, everything we've kind of talked about can be hobbies. I put that picture of two elderly gentlemen playing a video game because that's kind of homage to my son. I have a son in high school who that's what he would do for a living if he could. Hobbies are very kind of varied, and everything we've talked about is already kind of a hobby. But I want to put a little twist on just a couple of things. One thing I consider about hobbies is doing it yourself. So I recently read a survey that the number one hobby in the for everyone is gardening. And I never really thought of gardening as a hobby. I think of it as yard work, and it's not something that I like to do. I do it because I don't want my yard to look bad, because my neighbors will probably start to complain about me. But I do it, and I have to admit, after doing it for 20 years of owning a home, I realized that I like my yard to look nice. And so a lot of these things I never thought of as a hobby, but I do it. I actually really enjoy it. A couple of hobbies that my coworkers have kind of shared with me, and when they knew I was preparing this talk, we actually have one of the docs I work with actually started to become a beekeeper. She was terrified of bees and decided that she wanted to have a bee farm to help overcome that fear. And so now she actually makes honey and sells it. She's been doing it for about 2 years, and she loves it. She's got all the gear and did educate herself on that. I had my nurse manager that I work with during COVID had a piece of furniture that needed to be refurbished, and she could not take it anywhere because everything was shut down. So she fixed it herself, and then she started to realize that there's a lot of things that she can fix and and just improve and refurbish and make it look better. So she actually started this hobby of refurbishing furniture. So she learned all about paints and stains and did some woodworking, got some supplies, and now she actually sells them at flea markets. She doesn't make a lot of money. She doesn't do it for the money, but it's a real passion for her and a real good de-stressor for her. Um, and then uh, I have volunteering on here as well. So volunteering, so again, volunteering, you can volunteer at a lot of different places. And if you are retired and have a little bit of time, something that you might be able to afford to do time-wise. And what I love, I've heard someone say something about volunteering is that if you volunteer and help other people or help an organization, the library, you get more out of it than the recipient of your volunteer work. So it can be a huge gratifying thing that can really sort of help de-stress and help you um, just kind of distract you from the things, from all the noise that's kind of going around you. So something to think about. And then a lot of us, and hopefully you may be thinking, it's like, gosh, I used to do this, but I don't do it anymore. So maybe I should pick that up. Fishing, woodworking is a big one. Again, arts and crafts. Think hobbies that you used to do but haven't been able to do. Maybe you have some more time to do that. And so I would encourage you to kind of just think about different things there. Um, and again, social connections. I think as human beings, we need to connect with other people. We need to feel needed. We like to feel needed. We like to talk with people, and especially with the pandemic shutdown that has happened, I think people are doing this in a big way. My parents are retired. They live down in a golfing community in Southern California, and they are lucky that they have all these excursions. So every time I call them, I say, "Well, we're going to Catalina Island," or they've been to Turkey. They went on an excursion through their living community to Russia. They went on a cruise to Hawaii. So they really enjoyed it. Just to be able to connect with um, their neighbors again. But you don't have to go on these big excursions. There are organized groups. Just calling a friend. Think of a friend you haven't called in a while or spoken to, or family members. Um, and again, it's traveling is still, COVID has not gone away. It's still here. So travel can be difficult sometimes. And so there are still, phone calls or video calls that you can, that you can always have access to, kind of like what we're doing here. So the picture on the bottom is not my family, but it was a nice stock photo that I got. We did a lot of Zoom kind of Christmas mornings, Mother's Day with my family, who is also in Denver, but also kind of just all around. So, and then just online chat rooms. Sometimes it helps to talk with people with a little bit of anonymity. So you don't know, they don't know you, but it's just a little more liberating to be able to do that. So those are all also an option too that I want you to think about. But it's still a way to connect with people and get advice and just kind of just connect with people. All right, gonna switch gears, talk about solitude. And again, it's probably some of you are probably thinking it's like, gosh, we just had 2 years of isolation. The last thing I need is solitude. Um, but I want to focus more against, distinguish it from isolation. So it's not about being isolated or being shut away. It's just more about time by yourself. So reading, meditation, yoga, or any sort of solo activity like running, hiking. Fishing is one of mine. I see, the guy in the bottom picture. I kind of see myself like that when I can eventually, hopefully, retire soon, and just do a lot of fishing on my own, because fishing is something that you can do in groups, but you can also um, do by yourself. A lot has been said about, if you can travel on your own or eat in a restaurant on your own, because sometimes you want to be around people, but if you could do that and are comfortable with that, that can be a real sign of just inner strength, that you are comfortable in your own skin. Um, so don't always be afraid to do things just because you don't have other people to do them. But find that inner peace and just find that joy in that. Again, just want to end with a little bit about professional help. Painting is not going to cure everything. Yoga is not going to solve all your problems. Sometimes you do need professional help, and that's why we are here. Um, and there are ways, you can talk to your doctor about it. I spend a lot of my days talking about anxiety. Some people come in and say, I'm anxious, I need your help. But a lot of times people don't know they're anxious. They come in with a lot of these symptoms because the anxiety is bringing out all these symptoms and they just don't feel well. So it is kind of our job to help them through that. And to kind of tease it out and kind of work with them on that, because a lot of the times they're fine, but it's anxiety that's bringing out these symptoms. As far as medications, I don't want to just say you got to start a medication. I always ask my patients, and when they come in and they're anxious, to say, do you want a medication or do you just want to talk? And as other than prescription medications, there's a lot of other things. My nurse manager, I told her I wasn't sleeping well. Who sleeps well every night? I certainly don't. So she had me try lavender for aromatherapy, and there are lots of these non-prescription kind of aromatherapy medicinal ways that you can try to kind of to help kind of come relax your mood and help you take control of your own anxiety and your own reactions. Acupuncture is another thing that you can try for that. If you go to acupuncturist and say, I'm anxious and this is what um, can you help me with this? And they have a lot of options. I realize I'm going over. I'm going to just really, just in summary, I've hopefully given you a lot of ideas. Maybe hopefully some of you are thinking, hey, I used to do that. Maybe I'll start doing this again. And it's mostly about just distractions. If you're always in your head and you focus about on the noise around you, you can make yourself become anxious, and you can worry about things that you don't need to, but you can also focus on getting distracted, and a lot of the things that we talked about here. So I would say pick a lot of things, pick a variety of things, but don't pick too many. And again, it's a regularity over the intensity. Pick things that you can do regularly or every day, and definitely safety. But also try taking a risk. Try something new. Pick up a musical instrument. Pick up a new hobby. But the bottom line is things that pick things that will not add to your stress, but bring you peace and joy and give you that inner peace. And the last thing I just want to end with is, it's okay to not be okay. And that's kind of what all of this is about. If you ever feel that you're not okay, first of all, don't beat yourself up about not being okay, but try to draw on some of these things that you can distract yourself and hopefully find that inner peace that you know that you have inside. So thank you. I'm sorry I went over. I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I will still be around for questions.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we will be able to ask Dr. Lee more questions at the end. Saber, are you ready to go? Super, thank you.
I am. Great. Well, it's so great to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully my slide is showing correctly. I'm Sabra Chavez. I'm a board certified music therapist. I'm also the director of services here at Integrated Therapy of Northern Colorado. We are located in Fort Collins, but we do serve outside of Fort Collins through our music therapy team going out, but also through virtual services where music therapy is less accessible. We primarily work with kids and adults with developmental disabilities or in organizational contracts, being able to do music therapy groups and sessions with some different organizations in our community and around the state. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about music therapy more in depth. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for mentioning that and sharing some about how that can support your mental health. But I'm going to dive in a little bit more deeply into how it works in ways that you can really purposefully use music to support your mental health. So as Dr. Lee had mentioned, during the pandemic, it caused a lot of shifts for all of us in really unexpected ways. We as a therapy team not only had to shift from seeing our clients either in the clinic, in their home, or in different organizations, but also shift from that to virtual format. But then we also had to shift our goals for them and what our outcomes that we were hoping to achieve during our therapy sessions, from the more functional movement or communication goals, strength and things like that, into more of these mental health supportive goals where we were supporting or creating atmospheres of normalcy, trying to help our clients decrease their stress, helping them connect with their caregivers or their family that was farther away, or in isolation, helping our clients develop healthy coping strategies using music, helping them be able to create feelings or recall memories of happiness through experiencing familiar music and making music as well. So we definitely felt a shift in that priority to be able to help our clients just be and stay healthy during this extended period of isolation. So that was a big shift for us and a real eye-opener. And then that has also continued, just as some people are still isolating quite a bit, or there's just fatigue. There's a lot of fatigue where people are feeling stressed, are feeling anxious, are feeling tired of what's going on around them in their world. So I'm going to be speaking briefly about music and music therapy and how it all kind of works in your brain. But then I'm going to be sharing some ideas of things that you can do, or perhaps you're already doing with music to support your mental health and your mood. So next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what music therapy is. So music therapy is the practice of using music, whether it's participating in music by making music, singing, using instruments, or being exposed to music and experiencing music in a more receptive way, to be able to work on functional goals. So for a lot of our clients, we use music to work on strength and endurance by having them play instruments that are in different positions, in different places where they're having to, kick the tambourine in different positions to help strengthen their leg muscles, things like that. We also use music, especially for a lot of the kiddos that we work with, or with clients that have experienced a brain injury or a stroke, where we're working on music therapy to help them be able to either develop or maintain their communication skills. Music therapy for cognitive functions, helping with memory or daily living sequences, things like that, problem solving. Music therapy for social supports. This is a big one and was definitely amplified in the during the first part of the pandemic, where we were really trying to support our clients in connecting positively with the people around them, even if it was through a computer screen, being able to connect with people, have shared experience, be able to discuss music, be able to share favorite music, and have that overall positive interaction with music. And then also music therapy for mood and emotional regulation, being able to use it as a strategic tool to help you be able to get yourself into a mood or into an emotional place that's going to be healthy and going to be sustainable. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of what helps music function in a really therapeutic way. Without getting too sciencey, there's this misconception that there's, one side of the brain that is more the creative side of the brain, and then there's the other side of the brain that's analytical. So the music must live on the creative side of the brain. Well, brain scans and the more we're able to do with technology has taught us that that is not true of music, because music is so rich in information, from the melody, the different tones of instruments, timing of the rhythm, lyrics, and so on. If you look at the brain scans of people while they're engaged in music, it actually lights up in areas all over the brain. So that's super exciting, because the more that you can activate the brain, it's going to help stimulate this multimodal learning. It's going to help stimulate this activity that's going to be really helpful in therapy. So music engages areas all over the brain. Also, because of the way that it is engaging all over the brain, music also can help strengthen neural pathways, or repave the road to make the neural pathways in your brain that send information from one part to another and then to your body for action, can help make those systems more efficient and coordinated. So rhythm helps to sync in that information. We do that a lot with a lot of our clients that are really working on their walking, using a strong rhythm to help them coordinate their movements, or some of our clients with aphasia that we're working on helping them get their words out more clearly, being able to use that music in that regard. So that's the shared pathways, kind of repaving the road. Or music can also be engaging parallel neural pathways. And I'll give you I promise I'll give you a real life example, to help maybe relearn a skill after an injury or an illness. So probably one of the most familiar examples to this is the example of Gabby Giffords. She sustained a brain injury from a gunshot wound and lost the ability to speak. Well, we're learning that the ability to sing is actually processed on the other side of the brain. So her music therapist at the Tear Center was able to support her in learning how to sing what she wanted to say. And then, as much as we would all love to live in a musical, that's just not super functional. So then they were able to help her fade the music into more of just a rhythmic template to her talking to help her get it out, and then fade that out. So she was able to regain that ability to speak. So we can kind of repave those common neural pathways, or we can help kind of detour the information to maybe a not so damaged area of the brain to be able to regain some of those skills. The next thing is this middle circle here that says music can evoke a strong emotional memory. Now, I'll be honest, researchers don't really know how this works in the brain, but I'm sure we've all experienced that, where you hear a song and all of a sudden you're back in high school with your first love at the prom and you're feeling all the butterflies. Or there's a song that you immediately recognize a really emotional scene in a movie or something like that, so that you are immediately taken back to that memory, and even feeling the emotions that you had felt at that time. Or perhaps a parent had a favorite song that they sang to you, or something like that. So this is something that we use a lot in music therapy in the treatment of Alzheimer's, and being able to help people connect in that way. And then all of these areas affect functioning, but the last thing I want to highlight is how music releases different neurotransmitters in your brain that can impact your mood and your connectedness. So music can help with the release of dopamine, which is the feel good hormone, if you will, that a lot of people will call that, that's tied to motivation and the reward pathway and feeling good about something that you've done. So that's a great support. It also is has been attributed to the release of serotonin, which is the happiness hormone. So to help with calming and in creating more of that happy mood. And then also, especially in social settings, there's been some interesting studies about the release of oxytocin, which is the cuddle hormone, that can help promote bonding in a social situation. So making music can help people be able to bond and create those connections with people. Additionally, there's studies that show that music can help decrease your heart rate, can decrease cortisol, which is the stress hormone, can increase endorphins, which are the kind of make you feel good, that feeling of euphoria, or aid in relaxation. So there's just lots of really great things that help make music be a really powerful tool for your mental health. So next, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that we often recommend to our clients or the organizations that we work with, but then also that you might already be doing at home without even realizing what you're doing, that can be ways to support your mental health with music. So we often present with to the organizations that we speak with about music therapist-led programs. But there's so many things that you can be doing on your own at home or with your family to be able to use music strategically. So probably many of you, well, maybe not, how many of you have found yourself in maybe a melancholy or a ho-hum kind of a mood, maybe feeling a little bit tired or in a darker place. And then you've really connected with a piece of music that kind of reflects that mood. Maybe it's really emotional, it's swelling instrumental music, a little slower, maybe it's from a movie soundtrack or something like that. Or on the opposite side, I know for my family, we have a summer playlist that we roll all the windows down in the car and my kids, and we just blare the music and we get excited for summer. We get excited for the sunshine, and the music just pumps us up and helps us feel happy and really excited about what we're going to be doing as a family. It makes you feel good to have music that reflects the mood that you are in. It validates and reflects your mood. Sometimes if you're feeling maybe really in that melancholy state, and then you try to listen right away to faster upbeat music, it just comes across as really annoying, right? It doesn't click all the way. So that's why often if someone's trying with our clients, if we're developing a program with someone who maybe is very frequently feeling more in that lower kind of mood zone, then we would work with them to develop a playlist that would help meet them where they're at with their music, but then transition them into more of the positive mood where they want to be able to function. And so listening to music that reflects your mood and then transitioning it to a faster, more upbeat. I mean, typically that's the direction we're trying to move, is from that lower mood to a little bit more energetic. There are times with especially with some of our kids, that the opposite is true. We're trying to get them to calm down, maybe before bed or after they're having an emotionally difficult time, trying to help them be able to calm down in that way. So we would use the music in the opposite direction. Another way that you can use music strategically is to help you pull up music from your past, even if your kids make fun of you, even if it's not currently popular, but if it reminds you of positive times, if it reminds you of things about yourself, experiences that you've had that were pleasurable, to help you be able to not only exercise your memory and encourage that part of the brain to be processing, or those parts of the brain to be processing, but also be able to shift your mood into a positive state. So there is something to bringing back your favorites from years past. Another way would be to get yourself moving a little bit. So like Dr. Lee mentioned, getting yourself moving doesn't have to be running a marathon or going to the gym. It could literally be a dance party in your kitchen, and that's totally okay. Getting your body moving. So double dip with those feel-good hormones by adding in the movement. So dance party, exercising with music. If you're feeling anxious and you're trying to get yourself to calm down, maybe some stretching, just simple stretching with some calming music in the background while you're doing your yoga positions and transitioning through those different kinds of movements. Walking with music, that can be that's about the speed that it would be appropriate to support you within your walking. You want to be walking, but then having like really fast music, because that's your brain's going to naturally want to match that rhythm, and it might feel kind of awkward. So keep an eye out for that. But then lastly, to make music together. So Dr. Lee had mentioned this, there's so many opportunities, and do not feel like you have to be a professional musician to jump into some of these opportunities. Really, it's about connecting with other people in a safe space, connecting with others in your family. If you live in a facility, or if you live in a place where you are around other people, that you can go and join them for a musical activity or a musical game. Low pressure, but lots of fun and lots of benefit. Get that release of oxytocin to help increase bonding and feeling safe and connected. This little piece at the bottom says, please pay attention to how music may be harmful to your mental health. Now stay with me. I know it's like, how can music be harmful? Just to throw out there that, like, as music therapists, when we're in a facility or when we are working with a group of people, we try to be really aware that there are times where certain songs or certain music can actually trigger memories that are not pleasurable, that might be traumatic, or that might kind of switch someone into a negative mood. That would be not the direction we would want to go. And additionally, if you are dancing and you want to, or you are moving or you are walking, it is great to stay with a tempo that's going to be appropriate, because like I said, your brain wants to lock in with that rhythm. And so you want to make sure you're not going to be hurting anything, yourself or others, as you're getting your dance on. So those are kind of some things I just wanted to mention. Obviously, this is a huge topic. There's so many things we could go into, but I guess one of the biggest takeaways I'd love to mention is, please don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't feel like you have to be a professional musician to reap the benefits of music. And if you don't want to create music yourself, listen to music, go to live music, or pipe in that Zoom of that concert, or whatever that looks like, to be able to use music to support your health. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions you might have. And yeah, I look forward to hearing what Mike has to say.
Thank you, Sabra. I did just want there, and some of these chats we'll do at the end, but I did just quickly want to share that someone did share that they just visited the New Word Museum in Washington, D.C., and music was a huge part of it. And she even did her first karaoke with a group of teenagers, and they sang Sheryl Crow. All I want to do. She said it was a very positive experience. So she got the social and the music. That's
a perfect combination. That's right. A beautiful story. I love it.
So I did want to share that. And then someone else said they just watched Lionel Richie on PBS and get the Library of Congress award last night. So yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of those. Mike, are you ready to go?
Yes, absolutely. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Mike Reichert. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships at Wild Bear Nature Center. I do not have a slideshow to share at the moment, so you just have to look at the beautiful aspen painting behind me, which is part of why I was asked to speak. Wild Bear Nature Center, if no one has heard of it, we are located in Nederland, Colorado. I was going to try to do my presentation outside so you could see the mountain backdrop. Had some connectivity issues, so I chose a painting for you to look at, which research shows that even looking at nature in paintings is a de-stressor and helps with anxiety and mental health. So like I mentioned, I work at Wild Bear Nature Center. Just to give a little background, we're the only all ages nonprofit nature center in Boulder County. We're open 360 days of the year to the general public. We run all kinds of programs for adults, for families, for children. Obviously, our focus is outdoor education. During the pandemic, we saw ourselves as essential. The need for people to get outside was even more critical. We saw that it was safer to be outside and distanced. And so we haven't stopped operating. We've actually grown since 2020. And it's really exciting times at Wild Bear. So Just real briefly, our mission is to inspire a lifelong connection to nature and community through creative exploration of the outdoors. So just like the previous two speakers, we integrate arts, music, you know, the science of animals and ecology. And we really, our focus is creating that lifelong love of nature, that we are a part of nature and we are not separate from it, and that we need nature, nature needs us. And by inspiring a love of nature, that people will do more to protect it and appreciate it, and go outside and enjoy it, because outside is free. That's my motto. Even simple things can really uplift your mood, and feel more relaxed. I mean, I do it on a daily basis, even though a lot of my job is in front of a computer. So I wanted to pose kind of a rhetorical question to the group. I want you to think about how much time have you spent outside in the past 3, 5, 7 days? So in the near past, how much time have you truly spent outside in nature and appreciating it? Dr. Lee had mentioned being present in nature. We focus a lot of our education on children, but we know that adults have the same needs. And some research says that children only spend 7 minutes per day outside, but spend upwards of 7 hours in front of a screen. And we know that that is not how human beings were meant to operate. Yes, technology is very great, can be a beneficial tool, but we're not built to spend 7 hours in front of a screen. And personally, I've been really struggling with this, and I've been adamant about making time to go outside and be present. So real briefly, I want to do an exercise. I want everybody to close your eyes. Imagine that you're in a forest, or you're on a trail in the mountains, or you're in a meadow. And I want you to really tune into your senses. Maybe take 3 deep breaths in through your nose, fill your belly, breathe out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And imagine you're in that meadow or on that trail, and start to tap into your senses. What do you maybe hear? Do you hear the breeze? Do you hear the birds chirping? Are you near water? Do you hear chorus frogs playing their song? What do you smell? Do you smell flowers? Do you smell rain? So really, that's what we try to do at Wild Bear with all of our groups, is really be mindful, give your body and your mind some rest, quiet all of that noise, and really reconnect with the natural world. And then to kind of go on to some science of being outside, we know physical exercise, good for your body, but being outside can really help your mental state of being. If you Google this or search for it, more and more doctors are actually starting to prescribe time outdoors for health and well-being. Some Canadian doctors are starting to prescribe park passes so that people can actually go outside and be in nature, immersed in it. And some research out of Cornell University in 2020 states that 10 minutes outdoors, as little as 10 minutes outdoors, begins to lower your blood pressure and improve your mood and focus. And so being a nature center, we're very focused on the earth and the natural world. So we did a very, very informal survey during Earth Day. We had a big event at our nature center up here in Netherlands. And we just had people share on Post-it notes how they felt when they were outdoors, or how the outdoors made them feel after going on a hike. And didn't see one negative thing. You know, some of the things were happy, relaxed, at peace, calm, focused, all inspired, which I think that's really important, knowing that we are just a small speck of pepper here for a very brief moment, and that all around us, especially in Colorado, that we are surrounded by awe-inspiring natural elements. And then if you want to do a little more research, there's something called forest bathing, which really takes into account that immersing yourself kind of in a meditative state in nature, using your senses. It's really taken off in Japan. And it's really fascinating. If you do some research on it, it's incredible. And it's just that same notion of just go outside. Just go outside, break your routine. When you go outside, or when you have your cup of coffee in the morning, go outside and drink your cup of coffee. So yeah, and I was asked to share some of Wild Bear's kind of tips and tricks of creative outlets that you can do, because maybe not everybody can go hike a 14er or can drive up to the mountains and participate in one of our cool programs. We do monthly bird walks, we do yoga in the woods. We do a climate action series that is hybrid if anybody's interested. But with our kids, we really encourage finding a sit spot. So finding a place where you can find solace and just be, whether it's on your front porch, whether it's, you know, at a park near your house, just sit and take in using all of your senses. And what do you notice? Noticing the little things is really critical. And if you can't get outdoors, just like the other two presenters talked about, listening to sounds of nature is just as beneficial as going outside if you don't have access to the outdoors. Some other things that I do in my personal life and we incorporate at the Nature Center, buy a house plant. Surrounding yourself with plants is very healthy. You know, I talk to my plants, I sing to them, which then, you know, the benefit of just having a house plant can be helpful. My mom just celebrated her 80th birthday. Her health isn't very great, but she just sits in her living room and looks out the window. She has some bird feeders, so that's her connection. Even though she doesn't have the physical ability to go on a walk, she has created a place for nature to come to her, and celebrates the cardinals that she sees and the chickadees and even the squirrels and the deer that come and eat her bird seed, which drives her crazy. But again, she's creating an avenue to engage with nature. Some of the things I do as well, I walk barefoot in the grass. There's a lot of research in the microbes that are in the soil that can be passed on into your, into you. So letting your feet touch the earth and reconnecting and being grounded is so soothing, in my opinion. Digging your toes into the cool soil. And those are some of the tips and tricks that I would recommend if you can't get outdoors, even going on a 20-minute walk, just building it into your daily routine of getting away from a screen, letting your mind kind of reconnect is very critical. And like I said, outside is free. So get out there and enjoy the lovely atmosphere and surroundings that we have in the state of Colorado. That's really all I have. Thanks so much again for having me, and want to leave time for questions.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. So many super tips. I so appreciated that. I actually took a few notes. So does anyone, I kind of kept an eye on the chat. I don't see really, I see a lot of great comments. Thank you for all of those. So hosts, do take a look at those. I don't see any questions at the moment. If you do have a question, would like to voice it, again, if you kind of take your mouse and hover at the bottom, it does a little raise hand icon. And I can unmute you. So if there's anything you would like to share, please do. So I'll give everyone just a couple minutes to take a look at that and see if anyone does have any questions, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. While that occurs,